So, going to do something slight bit different today. I was looking over the YouTubes this morning, and one of the people I subscribe to, his name is Kevin, and he's a kind of a info, keep you up to date news and economic policies and this and that and the other type thing. I put a post up there, which I'm sure will get memory hold by YouTube, because it's something the establishment doesn't like people to think about. And that is monetary policy. It's about monetary policy and currency. You see, right now, the U.S. is having a problem with the banking system and with the currencies in general, and they're trying to push this CBDC on. And what a lot of states do not realize is that in just about every state, there is at least one city that has a community currency or a local barter note that could be adopted statewide. What they're also not thinking about is that a state-run bank, a bank owned by the state that backs can issue its own banknotes and back that by gold, silver, Bitcoin, whatever. And this was established back in 1837, I believe. And which is something that probably isn't taught in schools today, but when I was in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, it was actually, this whole thing was actually taught. Because each grade had its own currency with 3 or 4 of the different classes. Each grade had its own currency, and it was backed by the bank of each grade. And each class got to choose their own treasurer. The treasurers held meetings amongst the classes and everything. I mean, basically, the schools, three of the schools actually that I was going through those time periods. Each class had its own currency. Each school had its own currency, and they could be exchanged for extra food at lunch, or they would do swap days and everything. And basically, it was monetary. It was to teach kids about monetary policy, currency, and rates of exchange, and so on and so forth. That's something that, believe it or not, that's something they actually used to do. They didn't just run around trying to push BS and transgender crap and everything on people. They actually, at one time, public schools actually taught these things. And I'm aware of the fact that here in Ohio, we have at least 3 or 4 different currencies, and one of them isn't active, that was issued by the city of Columbus. There are still active currencies in like Akron, and for a while there was here in Marion. And I forget what it was called in here in Marion, but I think it was the popcorn hour or something like that. Anyway, you can still find them here and there, but basically it was around popcorn, because we have Wyandotte popcorn here, and we have a popcorn festival every year. This town is well known for a few things. One of them is popcorn, Wyandotte popcorn, which used to make Cracker Jacks, no longer. The other one was Morepowerr Shovel, who created the crawler for the space shuttles, that carried the space shuttles out to the launch pad back in the 60s. And we had a couple of presidents come from Ohio. One of them was Harding, who came from Marion.
Prepare your team. Round begins in 3, 2, 1.
That's something that they don't teach these kids anymore in school, and it's something that these younger people coming up don't realize is that, hey, yeah, states can have their own bank-backed currencies that are backed by whatever they feel like backing it by, really. But in most cases, it'd be easiest to back it by gold or silver or I guess nowadays we could use it by Bitcoin. And they could also issue their own crypto coins
Enemy flag returned.
that are backed by said resources. Now, this could be backed by gold, silver, Bitcoin, another crypto coin, land, whatever. Pretty much anything. Anything can be used as a medium of exchange, as long as the people will accept it as a medium of exchange.
Enemy flag returned.
That was the ruling.
Enemy flag taken.
In, I think, somebody versus the state Bank of Kentucky, I think it was.
Your flag has been taken.
Back in 1837. I mentioned the whole thing. I actually looked it up and mentioned it on
Quad spawned. Protection spawned.
the
Defense.
post I did on Kevin's
flag returned.
video.
Your team scored.
And I don't know, why
Enemy has the quad.
most people don't seem to think about these things. I guess I'm just an old goofball who actually bothers to think of things like this.
Defense.
Or maybe it was just because, maybe the schooling was a lot better back when I was a kid. They paid more attention. And I'm not as stupid as a lot of people would like me to be. Teachers always thought I was a dunce or something, I guess, but I paid a lot more attention to the important things than they think.
Your flag has been taken.
I was just so bored out of my mind by them teaching the same thing over and over,
Handyman.
junior high through high school, that if you're not going to teach me something that is worth my time, then you're not going to keep my attention, period.
Your flag has been taken.
But as a result, I ended up as an LD student because basically lack of boredom. Or rather boredom, lack of interaction.
Capture. Your team scored. Your flag has been taken. Killing spree. Your flag returned. Defense.
I mean, if you're not going to engage me with anything intelligent, then why bother?
Incoming protection. Your flag has
Just let me go to work and make some money, even if somebody in my family is going to take it all from me.
Protection spawned.
But that's something to think about. Something people need to think about. They need to look at history and see that, hey, yes, there is precedent set for these things.
Enemy has the
If
Handyman.
things start to go belly up in the U.S., there are alternatives that can be put in place by the states, by the cities, to temporarily take care of this monetary issues. And I'm sure that if they was to decide to do something like that, there's more than enough people in the U.S. and in each state even that have stacked gold and silver back that they could use to do just that. You know. I don't know why each state doesn't have its own bank that has that ability and is stacked gold to do such in just such an emergency. And it really should. It really should have. Every state should have some sort of alternative local currency to, in case such an event has arisen. Now, the reason I say anything can be used as a monetary exchange, precedent was set back then, but it's already in use today. Not only in the fact that you have local currencies, state-backed currencies like the gold-backed state bank currencies. You also only need to look at like EBT. EBT is issued by the state, backed by the U.S., and you can use it pretty much any grocery store, and some, even some restaurants, but unfortunately not here in Ohio, because it would be nice to have be able to use EBT as a restaurant, because save a lot of older people issues with having to try and find someone to cook the food for them and the like. Which, you know, local cafeterias being able to accept EBT, I'm not sure if they are. That we only got 2 local cafeterias around here. One of them is run by the hospital. I think the other one is run by something to do with the state. I forget what.
1 minute warning.
And
your flag has been
I really, you know, I mean, I'd use it. I'd use a local cafeteria if it accepted EBT. I'd, you know, as long as I could get there to eat. I'm sure most of the older and people on SSDI would. Now, see, for schools, they don't have that issue so much because the schools have their own cafeterias, and the schools also have the PEBT system for people who are on federal aid or state aid. So they have the PEBT system. So the EBT system shows that the precedent has already been set. Okay, the fact that you have a state-issued card by the Ohio, or in our case, it's Ohio Job and Family Services, shows that, you know, anything that they can use, anything they want as a medium of exchange for currency. Now, the state or the federal is trying to consolidate that, and they want everybody to use their cell phones and a QR code from their cell phone that's tied to their card. I don't mind. I think it's a halfway decent idea, because that would work great for like going through Kroger's or whatever. I know right now Walmart, Amazon, and I'm not sure who else, but already have systems set up where you can buy online with EBT and go pick it up.
Your flag returned.
Kroger's don't. And I've run into many issues with Kroger's
Incoming
because of
protection.
that
Incoming
very
quad.
issue. Because 2/3 of the time their little card phone machine thing that they bring out to the car doesn't work. They have to take your card in.
Protection spawned. Your team has the quad. Quad spawned.
Well, if they had the QR, then they could, you could just have them scan the QR right there on their phone, and that would solve the issue. Or you could just have the registry scan the QR, and that would solve the issue. Now, another thing that most people aren't thinking, some people aren't thinking about, I've actually already brought this up with cashapp before, is that you could, if you was to issue new EBT cards, which I frankly think they should, you could issue an EBT card that has the chip on it instead of just a magnetic strip. You could also have the QR code.
Your flag has been taken. Rocket launcher god. Your flag returned.
Done on the back of the card along with the name and the number, so that you could just throw your card over the scanner, and it would read your QR code that's tied to your card, just like as if you were using a near field or something. Seems how a lot of older people don't have
Enemy flag
phones
taken.
that have near field, and well, not every phone has near field to begin with.
Enemy flag returned.
And that's something that, Cash App needs to consider, and EBT, state EBT needs to consider
Your flag returned.
when they are looking at, issuing new cards. And if they end up issuing these, whichever app that they're going to use to represent the EBT. The app I currently use to track my EBT is called Provider. It seems to do a fairly good job. It shouldn't be too hard for them to implement something like that, seeing as how Cash App has already implemented a QR system for their app. Providers also has a section where you can get a bank and they'll issue you a credit card or something through one of their banks or something like Cash App, but I prefer Cash App because you can add cash to it from any of the stores. You can add money to the account just about any fast dollar store type of store around. So if somebody pays you in cash, you can always
your team scored.
You can always add the money to your account.
Your flag has been taken. Handyman.
That's the convenience. That's the most convenient part about Cash App. Well, second most convenient part. For me, the most convenient part is the fact that you can buy Bitcoin and stocks on it as well. Especially the Bitcoin feature. You can also pay with Bitcoin on it. If you would need to pay for something with Bitcoin, the groundwork is already there. And supposedly they're going to Lightning Network, so we'll see how that works out. I mean, Lightning Network is a good, idea, but I think it probably still needs some more implementation. And I have a feeling that, there's more currencies, faster currencies out there they could probably use. Cryptos out there that they could probably use. But you want something that's not issued by the state.
Killing spree. Excellent.
Something that's decentralized.
master.
But as far as actual hands-on currencies, you could back a state could
Enemy flag taken.
issue currency from its bank, from a state bank, and have it backed by gold, silver, or pretty much anything. And precedence for that has already been set. So that's something that people need
Your
to
flag has
look
been
at going
taken.
forward.
Your
Because
flag
right now
returned.
our economic system in the U.S.
Your
with
team
inflation and
scored.
everything else is just getting things are getting bad. People need to go back
Your
and look
flag
at
has been
these
taken.
things and see that yes, there are solutions
Angry
there.
man.
They're already put in place. It's just a matter of using them. Precedent's already been set. It's just a matter of taking up the
Enemy team
reins and
scored. Enemy flag taken.
doing it.
Enemy flag returned.
I don't know why I'm apparently the first one to bring this
Incoming
up,
protection.
or at least in certain circles. I'm sure there are other people that have brought it up in other circles. Because you can back a currency by anything. And EBT is already established and it's out there. So, there's no reason that couldn't be used. And just because remember, food stamps was basically the
5, 4,
paper version of EBT.
1.
I'm old enough to remember food
You
stamps.
win.
I'm also old enough to remember how to get food stamps to actually get you some actual money you could use for gas and shit. So, it used to be you could go in with a couple one bill food stamps and buy a few small items. You get back 50, 60, 75 cents. Then you take that money, you give it to your parents. They get people to use that to pay for gas or whatever you get to work, or get you to the doctor or whatever you need to do. Hey man, hard times. What can I say? So yeah, I mean, the precedent's there. It's already been established. People just need to pay attention to the past a little bit and not think that everything is just. It has to be the Fed's way or no way, or it has to be the federal government's way or no way. That isn't necessarily the case. Precedent is there. You just have to use it. That being said, I'm going to throw a footer and a header on this and probably put it up here sometime today or tomorrow. And I really think that it's something that people should think about. Because it seems to me that the younger generations were never taught this, and the older generations are just it's in the back of their mind, but they're not using it. They're not thinking about it. So you end up in a situation like we're ending up in now. So yes, there is a solution. Solutions are already out there. If the Fed wants to push this CBDC or whatever, that's not the only way to go. There's gold, there's silver, there's each state could have its own bank that has its issued note. Now, granted, the Constitution says that states can't print money, but state banks are allowed to print notes that are backed by gold and silver. That's the little quote workaround there, and that is constitutionally legal. The Supreme Court said that it was constitutionally legal. It was decided back in 1870 or 1837. It was also discussed there for a while, if I remember right. The second U.S. bank, Second Bank of the United States, also at one time issued a currency note. During Kennedy's time, there were gold-backed notes. You can tell they're different from the Treasury notes, the U.S. Fed-backed Treasury notes, because one has blue ink and the other has red ink or green ink. One says backed by gold and silver. The other one says backed by the Federal Reserve, which basically means backed by the power of the U.S. military and our greed. Petrodollar greed, whatever you want to call it. It's basically backed only by the U.S.'s ability to force someone to use it. Also remember this. We had two presidents that tried to issue legal tender under different Federal Reserve systems. One of them was Lincoln. They killed him. One of them was Kennedy. They killed him. The third one that was going for it, well, hopefully he'll be in office come 2024. And hopefully, third time's a charm. It was for the central banks. Because the first one was axed by the Congress, the second one was axed by Jefferson. I think it was Jefferson. But the third one took hold on the U.S., basically putting us into debtors' slaves in 1913. What's the old saying? Those who do not study the past are doomed to repeat it. Well, that's something people really need to think about. That being said, this is going to be my post for today. Hopefully somebody will listen to it. Enjoy me getting my butt kicked by their butts a little bit. Hopefully somebody will think about what I've said. We'll see.